Yes, guys, welcome back to another episode of Teams Like Brighton. The season has been paused. Richie, it was so close to being that perfect ending there. It was so close. It was the perfect start inside 45 seconds. But Villa just got it. They just got the upper hand, didn't they? What were your thoughts on the game?
Yeah, it was. I was barely just kind of finished, looking up from my laptop, and then Brighton had scored. You're like, oh my god, oh, here we go, another win in the bag. So obviously Villa were a bit slow out the blocks, and McAllister pounced on a bad, a bit of a hospital pass from the goalkeeper Martinez, and shrugged off the close tension of Louise, and then smashed it home, and then. Basically, I think from the 5th minute onwards, when Lallana went down injured, he now has, I think, a hamstring problem. I think it pretty much went downhill from there. They just Villa grew back into the game, and it just as the contest wore on, it just seemed that Brighton were like just 1% off their usual intensity and output, and just kind of slickness, and they didn't really have that many shots on target or really good chances. I think the expected goals thing was actually, I think, 1.6 for Villa and about 0.7 for Brighton. It was just obviously Dunk did a bit of a silly challenge on McGinn in the box, and I don't think there's any complaints about the penalty. And then McAllister obviously won the ball in the first minute for his goal, but then was robbed at his own end when Brighton should have just got rid of the ball when they were passing out the back. But that is the way that De Zerbi wants them to play. And then, unfortunately, Ings fired home off a rather unfortunate deflection off Levi Colwill, who made his first Premier League start, and I thought he did very, very well, the 19-year-old. It was just an off day. Brighton were not at their best. I've been covering Brighton for more than 2 years now, and I've never seen a team come to the Amex and just sort of play anti-football tactics. Just like the time wasting was ridiculous. It was just really, it was just like, oh, just get on with it. It's just, but it's not like an isolated instance. They've done this, they've done this at other times this season. I remember Jesse Marsh of Leeds was calling out Steven Gerrard's Villa for basically just, time wasting from the first half. And it was just one of those days. And it was, it really got quite ill-tempered in the end. 7 yellow cards for Aston Villa, just I think 2 for Brighton. But it was just a shame because obviously after 3 fantastic wins in a row, you were hoping that Brighton would just finish on a high before the World Cup break, and sadly it wasn't to be. What about you?
Yeah, Unai Emery had a plan. He had a plan, and it was executed well. I mean, the time wasting was just not needed, and there were little moments of just trying to wind down the clock, and you get uncomfortable, and that's what happens because it wound up the fans, and if it winds up the fans, it winds up the team. If it winds up the team, you lose that strength and mentality a bit. So in that sense, it is a plan that was executed really well. But on the other side as well, we know that Unai Emery is a very good tactician. We know he's got a really good knowledge and understanding of the game. And I think he also came in and there were little changes in Villa's approach in the midfield. And I felt that was enough to stop us creating those chances, creating those shots, and really limit us in our attack in the final third. And I think that part of things is, credit where credit's due. That Villa had a plan; it was executed really well, and we just didn't have an answer to it. We took the lead inside 45 seconds, but I think McAllister was just superb in that point. Douglas Luiz just was asleep, and Villa were caught napping inside 45 seconds, which probably for Emery standards is totally unacceptable. But their plan wasn't in motion then, and we allowed it to happen. Like you say, the Lallana's injury, that that was a big factor, I think, in it as well, because he was doing a lot in that midfield to make sure that their plan wasn't working. He could read it really well, and I
Yeah.
felt like he was directing and leading that midfield and the link-up play as well. He was directing it almost on the pitch. He was almost like the manager, like telling people where to go and how to approach and communicating everywhere he went. If anyone has the chance of actually being able to go back and watch that game, just watch Lallana and just watch how the ball may be over here, for instance, but he's over here and he's shouting, he's pointing at people as well. He knows the game plan like the back of his hand. And when he went off, that's when it went downhill, because there was no one else there who was able to do that. And that was carrying us for a fair bit, it seemed. And Villa came in, like I said, they executed the plan. I mean, fair play to them. They got the plan perfectly, and Danny Ings is once again doing Danny Ings things. So can't complain with him at the moment on that side of things. But like you say, Dunk, I think the challenge was silly. I really did. I think the challenge was very, very silly.
His touch was heavy, so he wasn't going to get to the ball.
It was very heavy. Yeah, that touch, that McGinn read it well. He just touched heavy and he wanted that tackle to come in. He was looking for it. And despite Sanchez's and Dunk's protests saying he's looking for it, it doesn't matter. You lunged in. But the thing is, that's not really a Dunk thing to do either. When he does it, he gets it every time. But for some reason, that time he decided to go in and do it, and I think that was just a bit of recklessness on his behalf. Did he get booked for that? I can't remember.
No, this was the thing. Initially I was like, oh god, I think I tweeted like, oh, this could be a red card, but I think Janice nearby me told me like it could be the sort of double jeopardy rule or something. So there was, I think, enough people close enough by that would have stopped it being a last man, or it wasn't that cynical or whatever.
He was going away.
He wasn't even booked.
He was going away from goal, so it wouldn't be a red card. It's not denying an obvious goal scoring opportunity. And I think Webster was right next to Dunk anyway. So again, not last man either. So I was trying to remember. Yeah. I was trying to remember whether or not he got it. He was in the ref's book or not.
He was. Yeah, he didn't get booked for it.
So the ref valued it as carelessness, and that's it. I felt Sanchez could have done a bit more on it, because all he needed to do was just block him and just force him to go out wide, and that would have saved the situation a little bit, and our defense would have recovered a bit. But that decision was made. He was a bit unlucky, and really unlucky for Sanchez not to get more than just a hand to Ings' penalty. And the second one's just it was just so frustrating to see that happen. Douglas Luiz got his revenge on McAllister, sets up Danny Ings. We were unlucky. I felt sorry for Levi Colwell. I really felt sorry for him. I thought he did all he could to stop it going in. Again, Sanchez should have covered his near post. Definitely should have covered his near post. So yeah, it was an afternoon of just so many frustrations. And I think it's one where I think it was a game as well. We missed Matoma big time.
Yes.
Big time.
Yep.
There was just something we needed, and we needed someone to draw in fouls and just go out wide and just play the ball in. And Matoma does that, and we just didn't have that unique and dynamic approach to the game. And as much as we tried to find other ways, Villa's game plan worked to a T in the back. So once again, we're just a little. It's weird to say this, but I'm feeling like Villa's our bogey team.
Yeah, it's just three defeats in a row now, isn't it?
Exactly. So they're a bit of a bogey team for us, even though, like, I think in the last couple of games, on what you see on the pitch, we are the better team. But they've just had a plan, they executed it well, and they got the better of us.
Yeah, just on that point about Matoma, Roberto De Zerbi was asked about sort of, obviously Matoma and Webster were both ill, so they were ruled out of the game, and obviously Lallana went off after 5 minutes. That guy, God, he just seems like he's made of paper at times, just so unlucky with injuries. But Yes, so De Zerbi said it was very difficult to lose Lallana after Webster and Matoma. Matoma was in a brilliant moment in terms of scoring and his quality of play, and Webster too. Matoma had a temperature, and Webster did as well. And but yeah, Lallana was a crucial moment of the game. I think he has a hamstring problem, but I do not know. So yeah, and I think obviously the player who came on for Lallana was 18-year-old Julio Enciso, and I thought he had a difficult afternoon, and unfortunately the sub was subbed. I think he only had about 55 minutes in the game after coming on the 5th minute, and he just looked a little bit of a headless chicken at times. There was every now and again there was a little bit of neat touches and skill, but I think his decision making wasn't quite right, and his touch let him down a few times, and I think after the game, I think De Zerbi basically thought that they wanted someone to sort of run between the lines and have a more attacking presence up top than put an extra body in midfield. But maybe, obviously, hindsight's a wonderful thing. But maybe that would have been a game for Gilmour to come in perhaps and add an extra body in midfield, because I think, like you said, that Villa did do a number on Brighton, and especially in that midfield, I think they outnumbered them at times, and I think McAllister and Caicedo had they didn't play badly at all. I thought they gave a good account of themselves, but yeah, it was a tough one for them.
Yeah, I completely agree with what you're saying, and it's understandable why Enciso, no substitute likes to be subbed back off. Like, I always think of Emmanuel Eboué over at Arsenal when he got subbed off after just coming back on all those years ago. But I admire De Zerbi's approach there. He was just, like you say, like he wanted someone to just attack on those channels. So I think he felt that we did have the upper hand there a little bit in the play. We just needed something else going forward. So fair play to him to make that attacking and direct approach, but I think he misread the potential of how good Villa's defensive approach was. And like you say, yeah, maybe someone like Billy Gilmour would have helped out in the midfield and maybe just opened up a few more gaps in that final third, which is what we needed. So, I do feel sorry for Enciso. I don't think he should take his performance to heart. It was just De Zerbi went for a gamble. It just didn't work out. Villa were much better on their approach when they were trying to defend against Enciso. They knew exactly how to stop him, and it helped them loads. So, it was just a frustrating afternoon all round. Like you say, I think Gilmour would have thrived in that match. I think that was probably be the only thing I'll take from that is, yeah, Gilmour should have come in for Lallana. There should have been a like for like at that point, but I don't blame De Zerbi for doing it. If he wants to go hard on the attack, I'm all for it. Really, we've seen from his style of play that we are going to concede goals, but at the same time, we can score equally as many. Unfortunately, we didn't score as many as we like to yesterday, but I think that's the excitement of De Zerbi ball. So all for it. No real frustration really, but yeah. There are, however, a couple of other things that were a bit frustrating, and I think we'll move on to that. Let's talk about the big one. Let's talk about Solly March and the penalty appeal. Now I'm in the West Upper. I was actually at the far end of it towards the South Stand. How I looked at it when I saw it wasn't a penalty. I felt like it was just a coming together. They both got the ball. Ding managed to get it off, but March has probably got hurt on the follow through. And I thought, nah, it's not a penalty. I saw the VAR check and I thought, I think they're just doing it just to save face a little bit. Not a lot of people appealed for the penalty in the fans. I felt there wasn't like a clear shout or appeal. I think there was a few people more just shouting it because March is hurt. And March isn't someone who goes down and feigns an injury. He's someone that if it hurts, it hurts. So I think that was quite more of a worry jeer from the fans, especially in the East Stand. But when I saw the VAR screen, I thought maybe we might get a penalty here. Maybe the ref has missed something. And I saw on the highlights the first angle, and I thought, nah, it's not a penalty. And then the second angle, I saw it and I thought, that's a penalty. It was that reversed angle one from where the North stand is, and you could just see him Dean's attempt to kick it, hasn't hit the ball at all. He's just completely swiped March. For me, that is a penalty. I do feel hard done by. I understand why De Zerbi got a yellow card, because he was just getting frustrated with some decisions. And yeah, the annoying thing is I don't like to criticize match officials because I'm a referee myself, and I do feel like as if like we're still in this position in football where, oh, it's one of those. It's one of those decisions. It could have gone either way. It shouldn't be like that. It should be crystal clear. And for me, that is a penalty. Obviously, the referees at the time, Joe Gillard on VAR disagrees and felt like it wasn't clear and obvious. But yeah, so I mean, I think we missed out on a chance for penalty to equalise it. Richie, what do you think?
Yeah, so I was really surprised at the time because yeah, in the press box we're lucky enough to have. There's like at the bottom of the road. There's a big TV and they show the replays there, where they don't show on the big screen initially. And I just thought it was so clear and obvious. It was just like he has nipped in. Dean is wound up to try and clear the ball, and he's just March has nipped in, got his foot there, and then clattered. Jamie Carragher said it was a blatant penalty. Obviously, March himself said he cannot understand why it wasn't a penalty and why VAR wasn't properly used. So this morning I spoke to former Premier League referee Mark Housey for his expert view, and he told me Solly March was clearly caught by Luca Dean. Solly got to the ball first, and the fullback has come through him and caught him, which in my view is a clear penalty. He goes on to say that Chris Kavanagh had a slightly impeded view, but he was very surprised that VAR never got involved. He said it was a clear and obvious error and he should have recommended a review. And that is what is infuriating everyone in football, including the fans, because they are just as important as everyone else. He goes on to say that from December, former Premier League referee Howard Webb is taken over from Mike Riley as the Premier League's chief refereeing officer. So that's only a couple of weeks or 2 or 3 weeks away now. And he's hoping that that will maybe improve the officiating. I think he was out in America for a while. But yeah, so just a bit more from House. He says the inconsistency we are seeing week in, week out, it's clear that something needs to be done. Hopefully we see things change when Howard Webb comes in on December the 1st. It won't be an overnight fix. It will take time, but I think we will see a gradual improvement in all aspects of refereeing and in the VAR room. And I really hope so because, I mean, yeah, I definitely think just if you take a step back, in terms of the accuracy of stuff, VAR has probably improved the kind of overall percentage of correct and decisions and incorrect. But it's obviously, there are definitely times when you go, what is going on there? So yeah, it did look like a clear and obvious error. And I think Brighton should feel rightly aggrieved to not get that one because it probably cost them, well, it could have been saved, but it might have cost them a point at least. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm pleased to see that we brought the topic of Howard Webb as well, because I think he's going to bring in a new dynamic into the role, and I think that's something that's to be needed. Mike Riley hasn't been a referee in the time of the need for goal line technology and the need for VAR. Howard Webb has, and granted, I don't think he actually has officiated while VAR has been in play or with goal line technology, in fact, but he is someone that has been in that transition of we urgently need it. This is something that elite football needs. This is something that can cost a club millions and millions of pounds. And, you know, we could talk about the case studies for it. But I think that with his understanding of the laws of the game and how to referee in today's world, that would help a lot in terms of how we are exercising VAR. Because I think that's what we're missing out on, because I don't think Mike Riley really knew what he was doing. I think that is my main critique on him. There needed someone else to be in it. I think he was in the role for too long. So hopefully that Howard Webb can actually go ahead and improve on that, because, you know, referees are getting a bad rap at the moment, and they need a fresh face to lead them. And I think Webb will be a fantastic addition. So hopefully we can see an improvement in VAR, and I'm sure I'm going to get hold to that by some people on social media, maybe when a dubious VAR call's been made in February and March time. But I'm hoping that there is some serious improvement on it, because we just seem to be a bit behind from other countries on how they execute VAR, because it takes too long in comparison to other countries, and our interpretation is a bit different as well, which I think is frustrating. I think it needs to be the same rule or law everywhere, but this is the position we're in. So hopefully we can see some improvements, and hopefully Solly March doesn't get fouled too much and not get what we should get, which was a penalty. Frustrating.
Yeah, switching up a little bit. After the game, we chatted to De Zerbi, and I asked him about Levi Colwell's performance. Obviously, he has had to be quite patient since seeing his loan move to Chelsea. He's only had like a handful of minutes in the Premier League before this week, and then obviously was maybe a bit of a shock starter against Arsenal, but played really, really well against the Gunners in that 3-1 win. And then, was on the starting lineup again. And for me, I thought he was once again probably the pick of the defenders. The only sort of downside with him was that he had a very good chance. There was like a free header in the box from 6 yards, and he ballooned it over. But in terms of like his defensive output, I thought he really didn't put a foot wrong. So I asked De Zerbi, what did he make of his performance, and is this him maybe sort of knocking on the door? Could a Veltman or a Webster's place be under threat in the starting lineup? And he said, "I'm happy for Levi. He said that he was fantastic. He said he was ready to play, and he showed me and the people his quality and his level." And then he sort of went on a slight tangent on this one, but it was kind of repeating the importance of having young players. He said, on the pitch, we had Levi, who was born in 2003, and then Ciso, who was born in 2004. For us, these things are very important. So, I mean, I think, obviously, Ntisi didn't have the best game, but Colwell certainly did. I don't think Webster's been in the best form this season. I know a lot of Brighton fans would love them to make the loan spell a permanent one, but I think that's probably not going to happen with Chelsea. And there's even potential talk that they could recall him in January. I don't know if that will happen, but who knows? But what do you reckon? Do you think Webster's spot could be under threat, or what do you reckon?
I don't think he's been that bad, but equally, I don't think he's been as good as he can be at the moment. I think he's been relatively a bit inconsistent in terms of his approach. I think what he brings in terms of when we're in possession of the ball and how he drives forward is amazing. It's fantastic to see. And I think that is the main attribute to why we've actually bought him. But I do think that, you know, he's made a couple of mistakes here and there that hasn't helped. But he is definitely very much an influential part of the team. And I think that with Levi Colwill getting the minutes in, we're starting to see the player that, you know, Huddersfield have loved for so long, and why so many at Chelsea rate him so highly too. So I hope that Levi gets the minutes in. I can see Webster probably keeping his position.
Yeah.
I think if we go for free, it's Colwill, Dunk, and Webster. but I think Veltman
Really? Over Veltman?
I think over Veltman, yeah, because I think what Veltman brings in, I think Veltman will probably be playing more as a right back, maybe, or as a right wing back. That seems to be the way anyway under De Zerbi. But if Lamptey keeps on improving and proves his worth to De Zerbi, we might be able to see him coming up. And Veltman is a superb defensive addition to the squad as a whole, and he offers a variety of positions that he could play so competently that he's a guarantee in the squad at the very least, and he's a team leader. So I think if he comes on in like the 60th minute for either Webster or Lamptey, we're not going to look too out of place. So I think it is a case of probably Veltman and Webster might have to fight for their starting spots. I mean, Veltman was on the bench yesterday, so we could be seeing a hint of what is to come when we play Southampton on Boxing Day. But we'll wait and see, because I think we could be seeing a few more surprise team selections, and it'll be interesting to see who we bring in January as well.
That is a perfect segue, Tomo, to my next point. So, De Zerbi was asked about January transfer plans, and it's been reported that Brighton are interested in Shakhtar Donetsk defender Mykola Matvienko. Hope I haven't butchered that pronunciation. So obviously De Zerbi was at the Shakhtar Donetsk last season before Russia's invasion ended the campaign. And he's based. I'll do a piece on him later this week. I've spoken to a couple of journalists and a coach out in Ukraine just for a bit more of an inside track on him. So stay tuned for that. But yeah, so basically it sounds like he's quite a versatile defender, more left-sided again. Can play as a left back, a left wing back, or a left centre back, but probably his best position is a left centre back. I think they had more than 50 caps for Ukraine. Seems like a talented player, 26 years old. So obviously De Zerbi's not named any names, but when asked about the transfer plans, he said, "I haven't spoken yet with the club, but I think we need something to complete the squad. We have some positions in the pitch where we have to do something for sure, but I think there will not be a problem." So I think the takeaway from that is he is looking at the January transfer window to make some additions, not wholesale ones. I think he's still very happy with the squad he's got, but maybe some tweaks that could be in or out. Who knows? But yes, what's your takeaway from that, Tomo?
It's a classic. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. Transfer window. He's playing it well. Well, look, we know that Bloom has said in the past that De Zerbi will be back in the January transfer window. He has to. I think that we need someone in midfield, and I think that if he wants to bring in someone in defence as well, the description of the Shakhtar Donetsk player that you have described there is very similar to Levi Colwill. So maybe we could well see Chelsea do the recall, and we've got our plan B in the transfer market. Who knows? But personally, I think if we could get a couple of recruits in to just keep this momentum going and just have our fresh legs when the time comes, because I've got a feeling that while we have the 4 to 5 weeks off, 6 weeks off even, between now and Boxing Day, there's still going to be a core of the players that are going to be tired and fatigued from the World Cup and traveling. Playing tournament football is a different game altogether in comparison to long season of football. So to have that bang in the middle of the season is far from ideal. So I do think that we need to bring in someone just to help us in terms of just keeping legs fresh and just keeping ourselves going for the whole 90 minutes, because we've got tough set of fixtures. I think everywhere you look, you just think there's a tough fixture here, there's a tough fixture there, and we need to just keep this momentum going before anything else starts to arise. We still haven't got the FA Cup to think about. Potentially more to come in the Carabao Cup if we beat Charlton. So there's a lot of fixtures there. A lot of players that probably needs to be rotated. Deserving needs to manage that well. Injuries could make or break it for us. I think we've seen that in the past with other teams. We've seen in the past with us. So I do think that Bloom needs to keep his word in terms of investing in the club in the transfer window. And he's not stupid. He's not someone who's going to be tight about it. If we need investment, we will get the investment. So it's just a case of how the recruitment team and what the recruitment team have seen and what De Zerbi believes he could bring in to that player or players. So I'm hoping that we get a couple of people in. We need a midfielder at the very, very least. Ideally, I like a striker. I know I keep on saying, I know I'm like a broken record with that, but De Zerbi has said that we don't really need one in the past, in the last week or so. So I've got a feeling that we're not going to see a striker. But if we could get another midfielder, and if we could get the defender that he's been wanting for a while, I think that's a good transfer window for us.
Yeah, I think. Obviously it was such a shame to lose the Enoch Mwepu in terms of obviously not being able to play because of his heart condition. I actually asked De Zerbi about him last week and how he's getting on, and another really classy statement, basically just saying, he's more than welcome to work with me in the office. He's a very smart guy. He hasn't told me about what his plans are, but and also he's like he should be an inspirational figure to some Brighton players in terms of his journey from Zambia to the Premier League. But I do think they could do with a goal scoring midfielder. Obviously, it's not like they're shorter than this season, but just someone who could be like a similar player like Mwepu, or box to box. He's really got that pace and power and athletic ability. I think obviously Gross, McAllister, and Trossard, kind of midfield / wingers, have contributed pretty much all the goals for Brighton. But I think if they don't go down a striker route, which I'm not convinced yet by Undav. I think he's not really shown a great deal. I don't think. I mean, it was maybe indicative of everyone yesterday, but I don't think he's done that much off the bench. Didn't have that many touches, but I don't know. I think maybe he needs to go looking for the ball a bit more and try to get involved in build up play. But yeah, so I still think maybe just if they could go down the striker route, maybe. But obviously, people were excited by Undav. Scored 25 goals or so last season, but as Graham Potter said, he might not be a silver bullet. And at the moment, it looks like that might not be the case. So, but yes, should be an interesting one. But obviously, then we haven't got no Brighton topics for a good few weeks because we got the World Cup, which I'm not sure about you, Tommy, but I have never been so meh about the whole tournament. I think I saw like I think it was on BBC Sport yesterday. It said that the Guardian had reported last year that 6,500 workers had died in Qatar since it was named the host nation in 2010. Building the stadium and stuff like that. For me, that just doesn't sit right, and I'm just so demotivated by it all.
There's so much about it I don't like. There really is. There's so much about it that just screams mistake after mistake after mistake for FIFA to award Qatar this. The lack of labour rights, the lack of sympathy shown to migrant workers, who risked their lives building this World Cup. There is so much about this that just doesn't sit right with the significant majority of football fans across the world. There's nothing about this that just makes you feel with excitement. And it should be. It's the World Cup. It is the World Cup. 4 years ago, Russia was exciting. Russia wasn't the best place in the world, but they relaxed a lot of their laws. But we're not getting that at Qatar. People getting told if you identify yourself as, you know, part of the LGBT community, you can't axe that, which is the most ludicrous thing I've ever seen, especially when the head organizer of it all in Qatar has said this is a World Cup for all and everyone's welcome. But if you're welcomed and this World Cup is for all, then why is one sexuality going to be punished by imprisonment?
Yeah, it just speaks to high heaven.
That for me boggles my mind. There's a lot about it I don't like. There's a lot about the about FIFA telling nations not to be political, which I find absurd. Like, you know, England could be fined for Harry Kane's One Love captain's armband. Denmark could be in trouble for their World Cup shirts. Australia could be in trouble for what they've said. Why? I mean, I know we're going down the dangerous route of, you know, talking about freedom of speech being abused here, but I mean, FIFA started this. FIFA started this, so this is going to be. It'll be an interesting World Cup in terms of how the national governing bodies act and react and tell how they instruct their teams on said rules and whether or not they're going to be a bit like, nah, do what you want, or no, you got to stick by it.
Yeah.
But it just seems like such a shame that one of the most exciting, most fun festival like sporting events in the world that happens only once every 4 years it's just overshadowed by so much, and it's sad.
Yeah, completely agree. And I think that's sadly not the most jolly point to end on, but I think that's a good way to wrap it up. But don't fear, listeners, we will be doing the odd podcast throughout the World Cup on Brighton related topics. We'll try to get some interviews on with some people, you know, past and maybe present with the club. So yeah, we'll and before you know it, we'll be preparing for Brighton away in the Carabao Cup. So yes, but yeah, thanks for listening, guys, and yeah, keep on tuning into teams like Brighton, and see you later. Oh yeah, Albion.